is subject to fine and/or imprisonment. For additional copies, contact Video Educational Systems at 9500 South, 500 West, Suite 209, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84070.
Up to this point in the video seminar, we've talked about the corporation as the issuer, the entity that issues securities. We're going to move now to another issuer, the U.S. government. Now, it also issues securities, lots of it. It needs capital, lots of it. The U.S. government does not issue equity securities, however. Every single issue they have is debt, unsecured. So you cannot foreclose on the White House. It's not secured debt, it's unsecured. A corporation plans to give the investors a return as they generate profits. The U.S. government plans to give the investors a return as they collect taxes. Power of taxation, U.S. government, corporate profits used to give the investors return at the corporate level. The key points in Section 11, we're going to learn: 1, the marketable U.S. government securities and the non-marketable U.S. government securities. 2nd, the maturity order for U.S. government securities. 3rd, which U.S. government securities can be used for collateral. 4th, which marketable U.S. government security is sold at a discount. Roman numeral 1, U.S. government. The U.S. government issues are either non-marketable or marketable. Those are the two types. A, non-marketable. Issues which are redeemed by a member bank of the Federal Reserve. Underline the next phrase. They cannot be used for collateral, be sold or transferred to some other person, or traded in the secondary market. You want out? You redeem them at a member bank of the Federal Reserve because they are non-marketable. Two types. 1, Series E. Series E savings bonds are issued at half the face value. The face value range is from $50,000 to $10,000. Interest, A, is included in the maturity price. You don't get interest every 6 months like you do on a corporate bond. B, base interest. The base interest is 85% of the market average on 5-year Treasury securities, or a guaranteed minimum, whichever is greater. C, distorted yield. Series E carry distorted yield to encourage the investor to hold the bond to maturity. Or not to buy them at all, no. It's used to hold the bond to maturity. Distorted yield, the longer you hold the bond, then they give you a higher return. D, small investor, designed for the small investor because you can get into them for $25, half of the face value of $50. Now, where else can you go and buy a $25 investment? Therefore, they advertise, be patriotic, invest in the U.S. Out to the side of number 1, just plug in these two words, at discount. A Series E bond is purchased at a discount. 2, Series H bonds are issued at face value in multiples of 500 and are only available in exchange for Series E bonds. A Series H is like a corporate security in that it's issued at par. So out to the side of 2, write at par. Series H at par. 2A, interest is a set rate and is paid semi-annually, just like a corporate bond. B, maturity. At maturity, the face value is returned to the investor. So with a Series H, you buy at par, get interest every 6 months. Series E, you buy at half the face value. The difference between what you pay and what you get at maturity is your interest. B, marketable issues. A marketable issue means it can be traded in the secondary market. It does not have to be redeemed by a member bank of the Federal Reserve. The types of marketable U.S. government securities are: 1, Treasury bills. A, auctions are issued by the Federal Reserve at weekly auctions throughout the country. They auction these off to investors. B, face amount. The face amount is 10 grand. C, discount. The DT bills are sold at a discount less than 10 grand and mature at the face value. D, maturity dates. The maturity dates are 13, 26, or 52 weeks. And E, interest rate. There is no interest payment or stated rate. The difference between the discounted price and the face value is the investor's interest. So when you buy a T-bill, you can select the maturity date, anywhere from 13 weeks, 26, or 52 weeks, depending on your needs. Another type of U.S. government security, second one, Treasury notes. A, face amount issued at par, usually $1,000. B, interest rate is a percentage of the face value and is a fixed rate. C, maturity dates. Maturity dates for Treasury notes range from 1 to 10 years. 3, there are several, as you know, government agencies who also need capital. And they can get capital by issuing government agency securities. As it indicates there, either notes or bonds are issued by government agencies. The agency itself backs the bond, such as the U.S. Postal Service. It's not a direct obligation of the U.S. government, as is T-notes and T-bills. 3A, face amount, issued at par. B, interest percent of the face amount and is a fixed rate. C, maturity dates. The maturity date varies from agency to agency. 4, Treasury bonds. A, face amount is issued at par, which is usually $1,000. B, interest rate is a percentage of the face amount and is a fixed rate. C, maturity dates. The maturity date for Treasury bonds ranges from 10 to 35 years. So all of the marketable issues are issued at par, except for one, and that's the T-bill, sold at a discount. The 2 non-marketable issues, one of them sold at half the face value, and that's the Series E. But that's not marketable. There's only one marketable security offered by the U.S. government that's issued at a discount. Here's an example of the marketable U.S. government securities and the maturity ranges, as you can see. Paragraph C, U.S. government securities maturity order from the most liquid to the least liquid. Now, when we discuss liquidity, we mean this: being able to sell the security and get your principal. We'll talk about that later on in another chapter as well. T-bills is the most likely because it has the shortest maturity date, and you'd be more likely to get back your principal if you purchased the T-bill. Second, notes would be second because it goes 10 years. Agencies vary from agency to agency. And finally, bonds are the last one because they go to 35 years. So you would not consider them to be as liquid as a government T-bill. The key points in this section we discussed. First, the U.S. government non-marketable issues. We said with these, they cannot be used for collateral or traded in the secondary market. Also, we discussed the Series E. One of the non-marketable issues, the characteristics include 1, interest. It's included at maturity. Second, the base interest is a percent of the market average. Third, it has a distorted yield. And fourth, you purchase for half of the face value. We also discussed the Series H. That's the second type of non-marketable issue. 1, we said the interest is paid every 6 months, percent of par. Second, purchase at face value. Third, exchange only available in exchange for the Series E. So those are your 2 types of non-marketable, Series E and Series H. One issued at par, Series H. One issued at half face value, Series E. We also discussed the U.S. marketable securities. We said they can be traded in the secondary market to some other investor. We discussed the Treasury bills. We said the Treasury bills are, first, 1, sold at auctions weekly throughout the country. Second, the face amount is generally $10,000. Third, the price is sold at a discount less than the par value. We also discussed the Treasury bonds. We said with the Treasury bonds, you have these characteristics. First, the face amount, $1,000. Second, the price is at par. And third, maturity ranges from 10 to 35 years. So those are the U.S. marketable securities that can be offered to the general public. We talked about liquidity. Concerning liquidity, we said this: the first security, the most liquid, is first T-bills, second notes, third agencies, and fourth bonds. That's from the most liquid to the least liquid. That completes this section on the U.S. government securities. The last section, we talked about the U.S. government needing capital. They issue securities to get that capital. In this section, we're going to discuss municipalities who also need capital, lots of it as well, and they can also issue securities. They, as well as the federal government, hope to pay back the investors with the power of taxation. On the examination, when they refer to government securities, they mean the U.S. government, federal. If they're talking about a state government, they will say municipal securities. Municipal securities, state, cities, counties. Government securities, federal government. Section 12 objectives will learn 1, the types of municipal securities, 2, the difference between the GO bonds and revenue bonds. Roman numeral 1, municipal securities are bonds issued by states, counties, or cities, also called munis for short. A, 2 types of munis. 1, general obligation. GO bonds are backed by the full faith and taxing power, circle taxing power of the municipality. Now, what kind of taxing power does the municipality have? They collect corporate tax. Some states, as you know, have state income tax. They have gasoline taxes, property taxes, and so forth. They take that revenue to meet their obligations. 1A, limited obligation bond, a bond limited to a portion of a municipality's taxing power, usually a set rate on real property taxes. So they say, yes, you can tax our property. This is the limit, no more. Second, revenue bonds are backed by a specific source of revenue. Examples include airport revenue bonds, turnpikes, or toll bridges. It's only backed by the revenue with that business or that item. If there's not enough revenue coming into the airport, the bonds simply go into default. They're not backed by the state, they're not backed by the city, they're not backed by the county, they're backed by revenue and only revenue. 2A, industrial revenue bonds are backed by the revenue from an industry that will create jobs for a municipality. The bonds are used to construct or purchase facilities to be used by the private industry. Sometimes a city will encourage an industry to come into their community by helping them to raise capital by issuing industrial revenue bonds. When a business comes into town and they have issued these bonds to build the plants and so forth, to hire employees, to collect the tax revenue from the employees, they are called industrial revenue bonds. They're backed by the industry's revenue and not some municipality's airport or something else on the side. But however, it still is a revenue bond. The points we discussed in this section, the municipal bonds, we talked about first, general obligation. We said they're backed by the full faith and taxing power. Second, we talked about revenue bonds, a specified source of revenue. That completes this section. Go ahead and do the next concept review quiz. We talked about the U.S. government, municipalities needing capital. In this section, we're going to lump it all together, discussing corporations as issuers, U.S. government as issuers, and municipalities as issuers, as well as the different markets for their securities. Now, there's 2 terms for these securities we've discussed. There is a capital market for securities that are designed for long-term investments. And then there is another market called money market for securities that are designed for short-term. Now, you cannot drive to the capital market building. You cannot drive to the money market building. It's simply terms used to designate long-term versus short-term. Here are the key points, section 13. We'll learn 1, the difference between the capital market and the money market, 2, the types of securities in the capital market, and 3, the types of securities in the money market. 1, capital market versus money market. Capital market, a marketplace for long-term securities over a year. So generally you think of holding common stock, 1, for more than a year, preferred stock, debt securities, and so forth. But the idea is this, that when the issuer issues any one of those items, it is long-term. They've got capital for a long period of time. B, money market, a marketplace for liquid, short-term, less than 1 year, debt obligations. Corporations and governments in need of short-term money may obtain it through the money market. Money market instruments are very liquid with safety of principal. So we've covered all the capital market securities, common stocks, preferred stocks, and bonds. The money market instruments we haven't discussed yet. There are 5 of them. The list is shown: banker's acceptance, commercial paper, negotiable certificates of deposit, short-term government securities, as well as repurchase agreements. Roman numeral 2, money market instruments. The first one, A, is called a banker's acceptance, are used for circle imports and exports. Let's take a look at the banker's acceptance. Let's say you have a person that owns a television company. We'll just put a TV company, and that owner, the business owner, contacts his bank and obtains from the bank a letter of credit. Now, the letter of credit simply says this: the owner of this TV shop is good for 50 grand, or whatever. But it's just an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper the bank prepared for this person. The TV owner gets from the manufacturer a delivery of televisions. He gives to the manufacturer the letter of credit. Now, the manufacturer says, look, we'll drop off the TVs if you have a letter of credit that says you're good for the $50,000. The $50,000 line of credit is given to the manufacturer. They send the letter of credit to the bank that wrote the letter. When the bank accepts that letter, it's called a banker's what? Banker's acceptance. Now see, this is the way it works. The TV owner has a good credit rating, but he doesn't have 50,000 bucks that he can use to pay the manufacturer for the televisions. So what he's doing is buying some time. He gives the manufacturer a letter of credit. They give it to the bank. Now this is what the bank tells the manufacturer. The bank says this: we can't pay you the money for 3 to maybe 6 months. Well, the manufacturer says, look, we've got these employees that are expecting to get a paycheck. We've got this letter of credit that says we're going to get 50 grand from you, XYZ Bank, in 3 months. If they need the money before the 3 months, they can simply take the piece of paper, the letter of credit, and go sell it to some other investor in which market? You're right, the money market. Now, if the piece of paper is worth 50 grand, they might be able to get 47 out of it, 48. Whoever buys that piece of paper will make the difference between the discounted price and the face value on the banker's acceptance. Banker's acceptance provides capital, money, for companies' short-term basis, not long-term. If they want it long-term, they go into the capital market, not the money market. A1, letter of credit. Television business in need of capital to purchase televisions from a foreign manufacturer would obtain a letter of credit from a bank. Second, letter to manufacturer. The letter of credit is given to the foreign manufacturer when the televisions are delivered. Third, bank accepts. The manufacturer delivers the letter of credit to the issuing bank for acceptance. Fourth, payment from bank. The bank pays for the acceptance generally within 3 to 6 months. As you can see with this visual, it shows the diagram going from the bank to the TV company, back to the manufacturer, and from there to the bank. That completes the banker's acceptance in the money market. Letter B, commercial paper, another money market instrument, also called an IOU. Consists of short-term, unsecured promissory notes of corporations. The maximum maturity is 270 days. They are issued at a discount and mature at the face value. So if a corporation needs to borrow $15 million, they just sign their name, sell that piece of paper to some institutional investor that wants to invest that money for a short-term period. B1, bank paper. Bank holding companies issue commercial paper, which is called bank paper. Second, finance paper. Finance companies also issue commercial paper, which is called finance paper. C, negotiable certificates of deposit, called CDs, are issued by commercial banks in exchange for deposit. So you give them a deposit, $100,000, and they give you a piece of paper that says you're going to get this set rate of interest for so many months or years. They are issued in amounts of $100,000. They carry a negotiable interest rate and maturity date. Once the maturity date is selected, it cannot be changed. Now that's why they end up in the money market, because you agree to leave your deposit there of 100 grand for 9 months. 30 days later, you come in singing the blues. They tell you to take your piece of paper and go sell it in the money market to someone else. The bank will not redeem it before maturity, not even at a substantial penalty. These are negotiable certificates of deposits, not just CDs that you can get for 500 or 1,000 or whatever. D, short-term government securities are close to their maturities, less than 1 year. These includes government T-bills, notes, and bonds. So if they are close to their maturity, if a government bond is at its 34th year, it's a 35-year bond, it would be in the money market, but not if it's at the first year and there's 34 more to go. E, repurchase agreements, a vehicle used by investors in need of short-term money to sell government securities to another investor and later repurchase them. The securities are repurchased at a higher price, and the difference between the sell price and the repurchase price is the investment return. So you have a piece of paper, a treasury bill, you sell it to someone at a lower price, you tell them you'll be back a few days later, pick it up at a higher price, kind of like a pawn shop. If you want to look at it from that standpoint, the difference between the two is the return you're going to get. This, of course, is used with large institutional investors. They're called repurchase because you're going to come back and pick up the item. You're going to repurchase the security at a higher price. The capital market we discussed in this section dealt with those securities that are considered to be long-term investments. So with the capital market, we have first common stocks, second preferred, and third bonds or debt securities. Capital market, long-term, it gives issuers capital. We also talked about this other market called the money market. The money market includes 5 instruments. First, bankers' acceptance, used for imports and exports. Second, commercial paper, unsecured corporate notes. We said maximum maturity was, that's right, 270 days. 3, CDs, commercial banks in exchange for deposit. 4, short-term government securities that are close to their maturity. And 5, repurchase agreements, government securities, short-term money. Those are the key points we covered in this section, the difference between the capital market and the money market. That completes this section. It also completes the first chapter. Now, you've probably been cruising along, scoring maybe 80, 85%, maybe 90 or 100% on the concept review quizzes. The concept review quizzes are not designed for a great deal of difficulty. Furthermore, it's a little easier to answer them after you just got done listening to the 5-minute lecture and you can remember the points. With the chapter exam, the one coming up right after this chapter, the questions are more difficult. 2 reasons. The level of difficulty has been designed to see how well you're understanding the concepts, and secondly, you're trying to remember all of the concepts from the first chapter in its entirety. So the idea is this: the concept review quizzes are down here. We take you up a notch to do the chapter exam questions. And then when you hit our final exam, you're up one more notch. So we're just going to kind of build you up a little bit at a time until you have that level of knowledge you need in order to successfully pass the examination. That's our goal, that's our objective, is to get you through that examination. So keep that in mind.
That was my toe.
Listen when Brian's gonna sing.
What is it?
How does it sound so far? Like shit?
You know, it sounds fine.
Well,
What
it takes
what
a little
is
while to get
What's
going.
the name of the song?
Home sweet home.
Home sweet
God,
home.
that thing
Blimey.
sucks.
I'm flying but over to England. Look now, I'm not a professional, so don't mind me.
Put it on here. I need someone to sing it.
No, I'm a dreamer, but my heart's a gold. I had a wide away high, so I won't come low. Just when things are right, doesn't mean they're always wrong. Just take this song, and you'll never feel left all alone. Take me to your heart, feel me in your bones. Just one more night, and I'm coming off this long winding road. I'm on my way. I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
What? Oh, good.
Don't tell.
Don't tape this. This is boring.
It ain't easy living like a gypsy. Tell you, honey, how it be. I've been dreaming, lonely, down sleeping, losing touch with all this. Whole lot of lover, keep it undercover, never.
Dedicate one to the ladies. Summertime shit, babe, need something to keep you cool. Ah, now summertime shit, babe, need something to keep you cool. Better look out now, 'cause Brad's got something for you. Tell you what it is. I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when passing by. Oh my, I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when passing by. Sing now, my flavors are guaranteed to satisfy. Hold on 1 second, Patrick. I got boom bop vanilla, a Dixie cups, all flavors and push-ups too. I'm your ice cream man, baby. Stop me when passing by. Sing now, all my flavors are guaranteed to satisfy. Hold on 1 second, Patrick. Well, I'm usually passing by just about 11 o'clock. I never stop. I usually passing by just around 11 o'clock. And if you let me call you one time, I'll be my regular stop. Bring it on, boys. I got a boom bop banana, Dixie cups, all flavors and food. I'm not the best, I'm really passing by. Sing all my favorite flavors, satisfied. I'm not free, baby, I'm really passing by. I'm your ice cream man, I'm really passing by. They say all my flavors are guaranteed satisfied. Oh, watch out! Don't put it down. Lost his heart and soul.
Give that man a blue ribbon.
you're doing with that. Surely one arrives at dawn. Mystery is stars are burning. Light it out, fill me in your love. What did I do? What did I say to turn your angel eyes I'm the guy who never learned to dance. Never even got one second across the crowded room was closure. I could look, but I could never tell. Stars are burning. How did I ever win your love? What did I do? What did I say to turn your angel eyes my way? And it won't break if it's just a dream. Suppose she is the best thing ever happened to me. All you fellas, you can look alright, but it's all you see is living here with me tonight. There's just one more thing I need to know. If this is love, why does it scare so? Must be something only you can see. 'Cause girl, I feel it when you look at me. So light out loud, stars are burning. How did I ever win your love? What did I do? What did I say to turn your angel eyes my way?
Negotiated price. There is no central meeting place. The market makers are located throughout the country in their own individual offices. Circle those three words, own individual offices. So how do we find out where they're at? How do we get in touch with these different dealers? If you want to buy their stock, if you want to sell their stock, how do you contact the dealer? There is a computer system that ties the entire market together. It runs from the Atlantic to the Pacific. It runs from coast to coast. It is called NASDAQ, and that ties the entire market together. Let's take a look at paragraph C, NASDAQ. As you can see with this visual, NASDAQ has 3 levels on it. Don't worry about what the visual says because it's also included in your workbook. It simply illustrates a computer. The computer terminal sits on a broker's desk, and with that computer terminal in front of him or her, he can see the market price for any OTC security listed on the system. And that is the system that brings the entire OTC market together.
your debt to yourself. And keep your hands to yourself. Every guy has got you inside. What you're doing will surely wanna last until the mystery. Stars are burning. How did I ever win? Stack cracking apart. What did I do? What did I say to turn my way? I'm the guy who never even got one zero. Across a crowded room was most away. I could look, but I could never touch. Stars are burning. How did I ever win your love? What did I do?
Dedicate all of the faggots in the house. Let's dedicate it to Pat's mom. Okay, okay. We're gonna dedicate one to the ladies. Sometimes it baby something to keep you cool. Oh, now sometimes it baby something to keep you cool. Better look out now, 'cause Brian's got something for you. I'll tell you what it is. I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when passing by.
Oh, my, my, my.
I'm your ice cream man. Stop me when I'm passing by. Sing all my flavors are guaranteed to satisfy. Hold on one second, Patrick. I got a boom bop banana with Dixie cups, all flavors and push-ups too. I'm your ice cream man, baby. Stop me when I'm passing by. Sing all my flavors are guaranteed to satisfy. Hold on one second more, Pat. Well, I'm usually passing by just about 11 o'clock. I never stop. I'm usually passing by just around 11 o'clock. And if you let me call you one time, you'll be my regular stop. Bring it on, boys. I got a boom out banana. All flavors and flavors are guaranteed to satisfy.
Get out of my
If
way.
a picture paints 1,000 words, and why can't I paint you? The words will never show the you I've come to know.
Something.
If a face could launch 1,000 ships, then where am I to go? There's no one home with you. You're all that's left me to. And when my love for life is running dry, you come and pour yourself on me. If a man could be two places at one time, I'd be with you tomorrow and today, beside you all the way. If the world should stop revolving, spinning slowly down to die, I'd spend the end with you. And when you're close to me, then what I want
mama, I'ma show how to handle now.
Mama, I'm sure I can handle it. Goes, Mama, I'm sure I can handle that.
Little thing, let me light your candle, cause mama, I'ma show how to handle now. That's right. look like you wanna land. The way I see it, you got to say shit. Don't forget to cry me.
I don't smoke marijuana. I don't take LSD. I'm a country boy from Nashville. With my hair cut to my knees. Around being lazy. I like to drink a lot of beer. I'm a country boy from Nashville. With my hair cut to my ears. Like to see some of the long ears. Tie them to a tree. I'm a country boy from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm a country boy from Nashville. Funk with me.
And I thought we were working in eights. Well, we were, when we were talking about corporations or municipalities. But the federal government.
Yeah, well, I gotta break out. I'll see you guys later.
No, wait a minute. It's late. We should all go. Let me just tell Jerry I'm leaving.
Hey, Mr. Gaines, a lot of special delivery from Burger Barge. What do they want to steal your special sauce?
She makes me feel kind of funny, like when we...
Of 1 point. What's a point worth? $10. So if you had a quote on a T-bond or T-note of 98.5, now that's not a decimal, that is 98 and 5 30-seconds. 98 and 5 30-seconds. What does that equal in dollars? $981.56. And then you go to T-bills. We won't say much about T-bills because those are not typically on the exam because they're sold at a discount. We will show you how the discount works. It shows the par value, it shows the point, the dollar value, a fraction of a point, and then it says, quote, examples. If the quote was at 9.85, that means this, a 9.85% of a discount from 10,000. So you would take 9.85%, subtract it from 10,000, and that is the amount after you subtract that figure from the 10,000 that you would pay. And that would be about $985 on a discount basis. So as you see that column that says quote example, second from the bottom, the quotes are basically the same all the way across. But as you can see,
Before the show.
Did you get? I can't go. I can't.
I'll have to pick one out.
She's already taken us.
I'll have to pick one up and then let me go out the lights.
This is a big heavy thing. Now, if you can carry this by yourself, it's a lot easier. If not, please say so.
This thing?
Yes.
You're a football player, you can do it.
Well, good morning. Come
You're
on,
in my
buddy.
way.
Oh, sorry. We have to be posers. What? Bud?
It's gonna take two of that for that bottom head. Yeah.
I've done it before.
Yeah, you almost knocked your back out of whack, too.
True. That's why Chris is carrying the heavy stuff. My dad has been hurting me for a while. Right?
Right.
What?
Pat, you can take the symbols.
Suitcase thingy for the symbols should be.
Oh, Brian's got it filled with something else.
Okay, Mike.
You.
Just bring all that out?
Yeah, basically everything's going.
Isn't that supposed to go in that case?
Need that later. What?
Isn't that symbol supposed to go in the symbol case?
No, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, that one's heavy, so watch it.
Wow. That's... The excitement's out here, not in there.
There's a base cabinet and it's fairly heavy.
Oh, well, we want it right here in the middle.
Well, probably one of the heavier pieces of equipment we got.
Yeah, it is the heaviest. That and the drum box weigh about the same.
Ooh.
wait till summertime.
I will. What are your reactions to this weather?
Sucks.
What do you want next?
Brian,
You.
the symbol's standing up. Huh? The symbol's standing up against the metal cabinet.
I don't need it. It's my ride now.
Yeah, face. We'll go in the car.
Look at the snow. It's snowing now.
This weather sucks, man.
You know what? A drum machine takes up this much.
Oh well.
Drum machine takes a lot less room.
You must name it, Brian.
Well, thank you. My
He
faithful
just,
companion.
he just loves himself.
It's in here. Rims and cords.
You gonna put them in that or?
No, what I'm gonna do is lay these down and put that bag on top of it.
Do you want to use that other,
Oh,
slip them inside this, would that help it?
I don't know.
Or you want to put them up closer to the middle?
Well, as long as
Michael's
they're secure, I don't
face.
care.
Ooh.
Because then you won't have metal on metal, they'll take the paint off, and my brother will bitch.
Yeah.
Bring this down.
You know I can get down. I am going to
Are-
lie
are you nervous?
3:30.
Are you nervous?
No, I am pumped.
What do you think about the weather?
It sucks. What? For a pasty face white boy. Bring up my phone.
Leave yourself down up there.
I'm a musician. No, I'm not. I'm a drummer.
That's right. Remember that.
What's the difference?
We've already drilled it into a
Well,
drum.
that's right. It's a big deal.
Uh-oh.
What do you call a guy who hangs out with
What's
musicians?
next?
A drummer.
Hey, it might be a nice idea to bring this.
Home Sweet Home sound a little bad without it.
Not in the back of the truck.
No. Bet you get that on film.
Mom said, take out my dog.
Asshole.
What?
Heard that in the bow.
No. I'm doing James Brown.
Michael's first aid kit for Brian.
What else you got?
Corn.
Hey, Patrick.
What we got?
Your car.
Yo, dele mio.
I come out there, the rain.
Brian.
Goes back in.
I gotta
Right out
interview you.
your asshole.
Okay, ready?
I'm telling about
All right.
it is I'm back.
Shut up. Shut up. Are you nervous?
Am I nervous?
Yes.
Why should I be nervous?
What do you
What's
think
next?
about the weather?
What do I think about the weather?
Sucks.
Cold.
No, the weather
I don't
tonight.
care as long as people show up.
I'm inside. I don't care.
What else you got those putting those to go?
Monitors. Monitors we can put.
That's boring.
Wait till we get there. We'll be a lot more excited.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna be there when you get there. I'm gonna be there later.
True. True.
You need places for people to
Who's that?
sit.
Oh.
Yeah, you're gonna need some places for people to sit. We're talking 1, 2, 3.
Who's
We
a
need 3 extra places. So there's 1.
nice butt?
I can fit
Whose
one
butt is
person
that?
in my
Oh.
car.
Oops. Oops.
Hey, watch what you're saying about me.
I'll take your butt if you want me to.
No, that's quite all right. Yeah, you have enough shots on my ass.
I do not.
Maybe I should get a jacket or anything. Can you see the goosebumps yet?
Nope. You all look all excited.
Adam, will you go around and unlock this door for me?
See, Dave's Vanagon has about this much on.
Cover it with something. Flip it over, yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
And all that happy.
Okay, listen to me very carefully. When you go to Capital City, get me an E string for my bass.
An E string.
Light gauge.
Light gauge.
Medium light gauge.
Round wound.
No.
Yes.
No.
Flat wound?
You don't want a flat one string. There's only 2 types of strings.
Whatever. Round one. I don't care. Just get something.
Round worm.
Make sure you get medium light gauge, okay?
Are we ready?
Medium light gauge, okay.
What are we gonna do? Just meet you guys up there, or
Yeah, you know where it is?
we're going right to Clyde's place?
Well, we gotta stop and get the lights.
Right. I mean, but
Oh,
we're all meeting at Clyde's place.
no, meet at Capital City, because it's going to take us a few minutes to get things situated by the time one of you
All right. We'll
goes
meet you
in.
at
Yeah.
Capital City.
Yeah, then
Who's-
you can follow
Who's
us up
going
from
after
there.
Chris?
Pat, I think. I can't fit him in my class.
Okay. Who's going? Adam going with you? then?
Adam's going with me.
And then Chris
All right,
is
why
going.
don't you two meet us at Capital City?
All right.
Pat will go after Chris, and then we'll meet
All right.
all at
Good.
Smart man.
At Capital City.
and then
All right.
pick it up.
Okay.
Ready?
All right, bye. Let's go. Good luck, you guys.
See you later.
Bye.
Whoa, jacket.
I'll be there taping everything.
One-eighth of a point equals $1.25. The clipping shows tax-exempt bonds will be later on in the course. If you come
Tape now.
It's taping that?
This is Tiffany Leonard. Hi, Tiffany.
You can't even see me. You're looking at the ceiling.
Well, I think we've seen enough for you.
$101.25.
This is Michelle's new shirt. Isn't that nice? Cookies. Mom.
Riverside.